Ethan Mercer had built his name the way men built empires in America. Quietly at first, then all at once. By 46, he was the kind of white American billionaire whose presence changed a room before he said a word. Tall, controlled, always dressed like the world was his boardroom. The press called him the ICE CEO because he never raised his voice. His employees called him Sir. His rivals called him dangerous, and meant it as a compliment. To the public, Ethan's marriage to Claire Mercer was the polished final touch of the perfect story. Claire, white American, early 30s, elegant in that effortless way money turns into posture, smiled beside him at charity galas and product launches. She laughed at the right moments, wore dresses that looked simple until you learned what they cost, and held Ethan's arm like she belonged there. But inside their sprawling Los Angeles hillside home, the silence had its own weight. Claire had once thought silence meant safety. In the beginning, Ethan's calm made her feel protected, like the world could throw anything at them and he would handle it with a glance and a signature. But over time, calm started to feel like distance. Ethan traveled. Ethan worked late. Ethan lived inside a schedule that didn't need her. And Claire, alone in rooms too large for one voice, began to reach for something warmer than stability. His name was Ryan Caldwell. Ryan was white American too, mid-30s, athletic, charming in a way that felt human. He wasn't like Ethan. He talked with his hands. He smiled when he listened. He made Claire feel seen. She met him at a charity foundation mixer where Ethan had been pulled away by investors and staff. Ryan approached her with a simple compliment about the artwork on the wall, not her jewelry, not her dress, not the last name that made people bow. That should have been the first warning. Nothing in Claire's world happened by accident. Still, when Ryan asked for her number, she gave it. The affair didn't explode into existence. It unfolded like a slow leak, small messages, late-night calls, secret coffee meetings in quiet West Hollywood corners where no one expected to see the Mercer wife. The risk sharpened everything. Claire told herself she deserved it. Ethan didn't need her. Ethan had his empire. She was just the beautiful accessory that completed the image. Ryan told her things Ethan never said. "You're not just his wife," Ryan whispered once, fingers brushing her wrist in a parked car. "You're a woman who's been ignored." Claire closed her eyes and let herself believe it. For months, she lived in two worlds. In one, she was Claire Mercer, billionaire wife, flawless, composed. In the other, she was just Claire, laughing, breathing, touching warmth again. And the longer it went, the more she convinced herself she was safe. Because Ethan never reacted. If he suspected anything, he didn't show it. He kissed her cheek before flights. He sent flowers on anniversaries. He asked about her day in that same calm tone, like a man reading a report. Claire interpreted it the way she wanted. He didn't know. But Ethan Mercer didn't build a billion-dollar empire by missing patterns. One Tuesday evening, he walked into their home earlier than expected. Claire was in the kitchen, phone in hand, the screen lighting her face. Her smile was private, careless. Ethan's eyes flicked to the phone, just once. Claire's stomach dropped. She turned the screen down, too fast. "Busy?" Ethan asked, voice level. "No," she said, forcing a laugh. "Just a friend." Ethan nodded as if it didn't matter. "We have the gala on Friday. Wear the navy. Cameras like it." Claire swallowed. "Okay." He walked past her, quiet, steady, and Claire exhaled like a survivor. She didn't see the way his hand paused at the edge of the counter, just for a second, before he kept going. She didn't see the faint narrowing of his eyes, the calculation behind the calm. That night, Claire lay beside him and stared at the ceiling, wondering if she was imagining the shift in the air. Across the city, in an apartment that didn't belong in Ethan's world, Ryan Caldwell stared at his own phone and typed a message. "We need to be careful." Claire answered quickly. He has no idea. Ryan didn't reply right away. His fingers hovered, as if he wanted to say something else. Something heavy. Then he typed, "Meet me tomorrow. Same place." Claire agreed. She didn't know that in Ethan's office, far from the warm lights of their home, a security team had already pulled up footage. She didn't know a private investigator sat behind tinted glass, sliding a folder across a table. She didn't know Ethan had watched a silent video of Claire stepping into Ryan's car, her face turned away, her hand resting on the door like it belonged there. Ethan watched without blinking. He didn't slam a fist. He didn't shout. He didn't throw anything. He simply closed the folder. "Confirm everything," he told his head of security. "Every name. Every location. Every contact." "Yes, sir." "And Ryan Caldwell," Ethan added, the name spoken like a file number. "I want his full history." Security hesitated. "What should we do about Mrs. Mercer?" Ethan's face remained unreadable. "Nothing," he said. "Not yet." When he finally left the office, Los Angeles was lit up beneath him, glittering like a jewelry box. Ethan stood at his window and looked down at the city as if it were a map. He wasn't angry. Anger was loud. Anger was careless. Ethan Mercer didn't do loud. He did precise. And somewhere inside that precision, a decision had already been made. By Wednesday afternoon, Claire sat across from Ryan in a quiet cafe tucked behind a line of palm trees. The place was dim, the kind of spot where wealthy people hid from the world. She arrived wearing sunglasses and a modest cream blouse, hair pulled back, pretending she was invisible. Ryan wasn't pretending. He looked restless. "You're late," he said. Claire slid into the booth. "I couldn't leave earlier." Ethan was home. Ryan's jaw tightened. "He's around more. He's busy." It was just timing. Ryan stared at her like he was trying to see through her. "Claire, we're playing with fire." Claire's confidence flared, defensive. "You're the one who wanted this." "I wanted you," Ryan said sharply. "I didn't want to die in the shadow of your husband." Claire laughed, but it came out wrong. "Die." "Ryan, don't be dramatic." He lowered his voice. "You don't understand him." Claire's eyes hardened. "I'm married to him. I understand him better than anyone." Ryan shook his head slowly. "You understand the image, not the man." The words made Claire's skin prickle. "What are you saying?" Ryan looked away, then back. "I've seen things. People around him disappear. Deals get crushed overnight. Lawsuits vanish. Witnesses change their minds. Ethan Mercer doesn't lose. He erases problems." Claire felt a tightness in her chest, like the cafe air had thickened. "That's ridiculous." Ryan's hand moved across the table, fingers curling around hers. "I'm saying we should stop. Or we should leave. Together." Claire froze. "Leave. Run," Ryan said. "Before he finds out." Claire pulled her hand back. "He doesn't know." Ryan's eyes flicked over her shoulder, nervous, scanning the room. "You can't be sure." Claire was sure, because she needed to be. Because if Ethan knew, then she wasn't living two worlds. She was walking into a storm. She stood abruptly. "I can't do this conversation right now." Ryan stood too, lowering his voice. "Claire, listen. I got a message from an unknown number last night. Just a location. No name." Claire frowned. "What location?" Ryan hesitated. "A warehouse district. Downtown." A cold line ran through Claire's spine. "Why would you go?" "Because someone wants to meet me," Ryan said. "And I think it's connected to him." Claire shook her head. "Don't go. That's insane." Ryan's laugh was tight. "You see, this is what I mean. You've been living so high up in the sky with him you forgot what fear feels like." Claire stared at him, and suddenly she saw something she hadn't wanted to see. Ryan wasn't fearless. He wasn't the warm escape. He was human, and humans made mistakes. She left the cafe without hugging him goodbye. Back in her car, she sat for a full minute with both hands on the steering wheel, breathing like she'd been running. Then she texted him. "Don't go anywhere. Stay home tonight." Ryan didn't answer. That evening, Ethan came home at a normal time. He kissed Claire's cheek, offered her a glass of wine, and asked if she wanted to review speeches for the gala. Claire watched him closely, searching his face for cracks. There were none. His calm was perfect. Too perfect. As they sat on the couch, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and then set it down. Claire tried to swallow. "Work." Ethan's eyes stayed on her. "Always." Claire forced a smile. "You ever get tired of it?" Ethan studied her like she'd asked a strange question. "No," he said. "It's what I do." Claire nodded slowly, feeling the distance again, wide as the city. Later, when Ethan went upstairs, Claire sat alone in the living room and called Ryan. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. She stared at her screen, heart pounding. Then she did something she rarely did. She drove. She went to Ryan's apartment near Midtown, parking half a block away. The building looked normal. Too normal. Her chest eased slightly. Then she noticed the police tape. Yellow strips across the entrance, flashing lights painting the street in blue and red. Claire's mouth went dry. She stepped out of her car, legs unsteady, and walked closer as if pulled by gravity. A small crowd gathered near the sidewalk, people whispering, craning their necks. A police officer stood near the door. Claire approached, her voice shaking. "Excuse me, what happened?" The officer's eyes moved over her. Expensive car, expensive bag, too clean for this street. "Ma'am, please step back." "I know someone who lives here," Claire insisted. The officer's expression tightened. "We found a body." Claire blinked. "A body?" The officer nodded. "Male. Mid-30s. The world tilted. Claire grabbed the edge of a parked car to steady herself. Her phone slipped in her hand. Ryan. Her mind screamed his name, but her lips wouldn't form it. "Ma'am," the officer said, softer now. "Are you okay?" Claire's throat worked. Can I see him?" The officer hesitated. "We'll need identification." Claire heard herself whisper, "I can identify him." As they led her past the tape and toward the entrance, Claire's heart slammed against her ribs. Her vision narrowed. She felt the weight of everything she'd done, everything she'd hidden, pressing down like a hand around her neck. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a single thought repeated like a warning bell. Ethan. The identification process didn't happen in a dramatic room with swinging doors like in movies. It happened in a sterile, brightly lit space where everything smelled like disinfectant and truth. Claire sat in a plastic chair, hands trembling, while a detective spoke in a calm, practiced tone. "Mrs. The detective began. Claire hesitated. Saying her last name felt like stepping onto a stage. "Mercer." The detective's eyes flickered. Recognition. Everyone recognized that name in Los Angeles. "Mrs. Mercer," he repeated carefully. "The deceased appears to be Ryan Caldwell. Do you know him?" Claire's heartbeat hammered. "He worked with a foundation," she lied, the words brittle. The detective nodded, as if he didn't believe her but didn't need to fight yet. "We need you to confirm identity." A door opened. A medical examiner stepped in. "We're ready." Claire stood, legs shaking. She followed them down a short hallway that felt endless. When they reached the room, the examiner pulled back a sheet. Claire saw Ryan's face, pale, drained of warmth. The charming smile was gone. The life was gone. A cold stillness replaced everything he'd been. Claire's breath caught, sharp, painful. Her skin went clammy. Her knees weakened. She turned pale. The examiner watched, ready to catch her if she fell. Claire didn't collapse. She didn't scream. She simply stared at the consequences. "Yes," she whispered. "It's him." The detective's voice softened. "When was the last time you spoke to Mr. Caldwell?" Claire tried to think, but her mind was a storm of guilt and fear. "Yesterday," she said, too quickly. The detective's eyes narrowed. "Yesterday, where?" Claire swallowed. A cafe. The detective exchanged a look with the examiner. We'll need the location. Claire gave it, voice small, like a confession. As she signed forms, her hands shook so badly the pen scratched across the paper. She felt exposed, stripped. She imagined Ethan's face if he knew. The calm. The quiet. The ability to erase problems. Had Ryan been erased? The thought made her nauseous. 2 hours later, she returned home. The house looked the same. White walls, expensive art, glass doors opening onto a view that should have felt like power. But now the space felt like a trap. Ethan was in the living room, seated with a tablet in his lap, reading as if nothing in the universe had shifted. Claire stopped in the doorway, unable to move. Ethan looked up. You're late. Claire's throat tightened. I had to handle something. Ethan set the tablet down. What happened? Claire stared at him, trying to decide how much truth would kill her. Someone I knew died. Ethan's face didn't change. Who? Claire's lips parted, but no sound came out. Ethan waited. His patience felt like a weapon. Ryan Caldwell, Claire finally said, voice barely audible. Ethan nodded once, as if checking off a name on a list. I see. Claire blinked, confusion cutting through fear. You know him. Ethan stood, smoothing the front of his shirt. I know a lot of people. Claire's heart pounded. He was found dead. Ethan's eyes held hers. That's unfortunate. Claire's stomach twisted. Unfortunate? Ethan, he... Sit, Ethan said, calm, authoritative. Claire sat without realizing she obeyed. Ethan walked to the bar, poured himself a small drink, and returned with the same steady pace. He didn't look like a grieving man. He looked like a man who had anticipated the outcome. Claire's voice shook. Were you involved in this? Ethan's gaze remained unreadable. Involved. Claire's hands clenched. Ryan is dead, Ethan. And you're acting like you expected it. Ethan took a sip. Claire, he said softly, why would I expect that? Claire felt her breath fracture. Tears threatened, but she fought them. Because you erase problems. Ethan's mouth curved slightly, not a smile, something colder. Is that what you think? Claire's eyes burned. I don't know what to think anymore. Ethan set the glass down. Then listen carefully. Claire's body went rigid. Ethan's voice stayed calm, but every word landed with weight. I know about the affair. The world stopped. Claire's mouth opened, but air didn't come. Her chest felt tight, like she'd been punched. Ethan continued, voice almost gentle. I've known for months. Claire's vision blurred. Why didn't you say anything? Ethan's eyes didn't soften. Because I wanted to see what you would do. Claire shook her head, desperate. Ethan, No, Ethan said, quiet but absolute. You made choices. Over and over. Claire's tears fell now, silent. I didn't want this. I didn't want him dead. Ethan's gaze sharpened. Do you think I killed him? Claire couldn't answer. Her silence was the accusation. Ethan's voice lowered. Claire, you live in a world where your name protects you. Where you believe consequences are optional. Ryan Caldwell didn't live in that world. Claire's hands covered her mouth as a sob escaped. Ethan watched her, expression controlled. The police will investigate. They'll find what they find. But understand this, I didn't need to touch him. Claire looked up, shattered. What does that mean? Ethan leaned slightly forward. It means truth has its own gravity. It always falls. Claire's body trembled. So you just waited? Ethan stood again, towering now. I didn't react with rage. I didn't embarrass you in public. I didn't ruin you. Claire's voice cracked. Then what are you doing? Ethan looked at her like she was finally seeing him. I'm letting you feel it, he said. At the most devastating moment. Claire cried harder, the sound filling the huge room like proof she was human. Ethan's voice stayed calm. Tomorrow, you'll go to the gala. You'll smile. You'll wear the navy. Cameras will love it. Claire stared at him, horrified. "How can you?" "Because," Ethan said, cutting her off, "this is the world you chose. And in this world, you don't get to fall apart in public." Claire's tears ran down her face, and she understood then, Ethan hadn't lost control. He had never lost control. Friday arrived like a verdict. Claire stood in front of her bedroom mirror wearing the navy dress Ethan had chosen. Her hands shook as she fastened the clasp. Her face looked pale, haunted. She tried to apply makeup to hide it, but grief and fear lived deeper than powder could reach. Downstairs, Ethan waited in a tailored suit, calm as ever. When Claire descended the staircase, he looked at her the way he looked at quarterly reports, with evaluation, not affection. "You look fine," he said. Claire's mouth tightened. "That's what matters, right?" Ethan didn't answer. He simply held out his arm. Claire took it because she didn't know what else to do. At the gala, chandeliers glittered overhead and champagne flowed like water. Wealthy donors laughed, politicians smiled, influencers posed. Cameras flashed. People called Ethan Sir, and Claire, so beautiful, as if beauty could erase guilt. Claire felt like she was watching her own life from behind glass. As they moved through the crowd, she sensed whispers. Not about the affair. No one knew that, but about something. Maybe the way her smile didn't reach her eyes. Maybe the way she flinched when someone touched her arm. Ethan didn't flinch. Ethan was flawless. When it was time for his speech, Ethan stepped onto the stage with the same controlled confidence that had built his empire. He spoke about philanthropy, about opportunity, about changing lives. His voice was calm, steady, believable. Claire stood off to the side, hands clasped, chest tight. Then Ethan's gaze flicked toward her for a brief moment, so quick no one else noticed. But Claire felt it like a blade. After the speech, they were approached by a detective near the exit. The man wore a suit but had the posture of law enforcement, direct, unafraid. "Mr. Mercer," the detective said politely. Ethan's expression remained neutral. "Detective." Claire's blood turned cold. She hadn't told Ethan about the detective's questions. How did he know? The detective glanced at Claire. "Mrs. Mercer." Claire forced a nod, her mouth dry. "We have follow-up questions regarding Ryan Caldwell," the detective said. "The timeline. Witnesses. Phone records." Claire's heart pounded. Ethan's voice remained calm. "Of course," he said. "We'll cooperate." Claire stared at him, stunned by the ease. As the detective spoke, Claire's mind raced. Phone records. Cafe location. Messages. Everything she thought was hidden. Everything she thought she controlled. Ethan turned slightly toward her and spoke in a low voice only she could hear. "You see," he murmured. Claire's eyes filled with tears again. "Ethan, please." Ethan's face didn't change. "In the billionaire world," he whispered, "betrayal doesn't end with shouting. It ends with consequence." Claire swallowed, shaking. She wanted to beg. She wanted to explain. She wanted to rewind time and become someone else. But time didn't bend for her. Later that night, back home, Claire walked onto the balcony overlooking the glowing city. The skyline looked the same as always, golden, arrogant, endless. She gripped the railing with both hands as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Ethan stepped outside behind her, jacket unbuttoned, posture relaxed and unbothered. He stood a few feet away, not touching her, not comforting her. His presence was like a shadow with a heartbeat. Claire's voice was small. "What happens now?" Ethan looked out over the city as if considering a business decision. "Now," he said, "you live with what you chose." Claire's shoulders trembled. "Are you leaving me?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. Silence stretched between them, filled with everything they could no longer pretend. Finally, Ethan spoke. "I'm not interested in destroying you," he said. "Destruction is messy. Loud." Claire turned slightly, tears streaking her face. "Then what do you want?" Ethan's gaze remained steady. "I want you to understand the difference between being protected and being powerless." Claire's breath caught. Ethan stepped closer, not to touch her, but to make sure she heard him. "You thought you were safe because you were my wife," he said softly. "But safety without loyalty is temporary. Claire's hands tightened on the railing. The city lights blurred through her tears. Ethan's voice stayed calm, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "I didn't react with rage," he said. "I didn't expose you publicly. I didn't ruin you." Claire's lips trembled. "Then why does it feel like I'm ruined?" Ethan looked at her, and for the first time, there was something like sadness, thin, controlled, quickly buried. "Because you finally feel consequences," he said. "And you can't buy your way out." Claire sobbed quietly, shoulders shaking, the sound swallowed by the open night. Ethan turned back to the skyline, hands in his pockets, the calm billionaire again. "The story doesn't end with shouting," he said, voice low. "It ends with silence." Claire stood beside him on the modern glass balcony at Sunset's Memory, overlooking Los Angeles, hands resting on the railing, body trembling but upright. Ethan stood slightly behind her, relaxed and protective in presence only, his posture confident, his face unreadable. Golden light reflected off skyscrapers. Soft clouds drifted. The city glowed beneath them like a kingdom that didn't care who was breaking. And Claire understood, too late, that the man she betrayed wasn't just rich. He had been watching everything. He didn't need revenge. He simply let the truth surface at the most devastating moment. In the billionaire world, betrayal doesn't end with shouting or divorce. It ends with silence, loss, and total downfall.